Looking forward to having some fun on Friday's ESPN FC Live. Two of my favourites, Shaka Hislop and Luis Miguel Echegaray, LME.
You say that to everybody, Mark Donaldson.
I do, but
I'm
it makes you
blushing.
feel
I'm
wanted.
taking it. I'm blushing. I'm taking it out. You see the sweetest things.
I know. We're going to look back at the Europa League yesterday. In football, Shaq, you can only win, lose, or draw. And that's what the English teams did. One of them won, one of them lost, and one of them drew. And then we'll look ahead to the Premier League. Let's start with the Manchester United game in San Sebastian. Donostia in the Basque country in Spain. 1-1 for Man United. They were 1-0 up against a good side, conceded a penalty. It's probably a result they would have taken before kickoff. What did you make of their performance, and what chance do you give Real Sociedad in the second leg? A capable Real Sociedad, it has to be said.
Yeah, I thought Manchester United were outstanding for 70 minutes. And maybe the only surprise or disappointment was that they weren't further ahead, that they had enough possession, certainly had enough threatening chances, but for want of a finishing touch, a striker, maybe we're having a very different conversation. Then all of a sudden, the penalty, and it was a penalty. I don't think there was any controversy about that at all. Sociedad score, and from there on in, it's one team. Sociedad, it's a total role reversal from what we saw for 70 minutes. And how Sociedad come away not winning is beyond me. So when you're trying to sum up this game, I kind of think that your conclusions fall on who maybe you support here. Because for 70 minutes, it should have been Manchester United 3 or 4 and come away comfortable winners. So a draw feels like a little bit of a disappointment. But for the last 20 minutes, it was all Sociedad, and they should have scored. Onana made a couple of decent saves, had one very good chance very late on. So then they now come out of the game a little bit disappointed that they haven't won it. So where does that leave us for the return leg? It's at Old Trafford, which maybe doesn't kind of strike the chord that it once did, but you still feel that there's some value in playing at home. So I'm leaning Manchester United to go through. But make no mistake about it, if Manchester United choose to play the way they did in the closing 20 minutes, this could be all over for Sociedad in the first half.
Yeah, look, it's not going to be a surprise, LME, whoever goes through, because they're both capable and they're both very good on their day. It's how often you see that. But I want to kind of look at the kind of Fenerbahce Rangers game, just briefly to set up this question to you. Rangers have been horrible at home.
Who had Scottish football in 4 minutes? Who had 4 minutes on the bingo card?
I need this to be an illustrative point.
No Hearts, though. No Hearts. It wasn't Hearts.
That was early. I was
Quiet, please.
At least
Quiet, please. I called you two of my favorites. Not anymore. Behave yourself in the back of the class. Listen, Rangers have problems at home against supposedly weaker teams because they're expected to make the play. Manchester United have had problems against supposedly weaker teams because they're allowing Manchester United the ball. So how do Real Sociedad approach the second leg, LME? Do they allow Manchester United the ball and kind of maybe go away from what they normally do and be a bit more compact? Or do they feel, hey, this Manchester United defense, we can score against them. Let's have a go.
I think a little bit of both, because I think what's happening with Ruben Amorim's system is you clearly see the issues right now because of the personnel. But like Shaka said, Man United should have scored more. And because they don't have the effectiveness up front, or at least the creation, and I know we're going to talk about strikers and the like, but if you look at these stats from this match, right, they are doing a little bit better getting into the final third. They are horrific when it comes to testing the goalkeeper. So that to me says that if I'm Real Sociedad in the second leg here at Old Trafford, and like Shaka said, being in Old Trafford absolutely means nothing anymore. It doesn't at all. But if I go to this game in the second leg, I'm going to say, listen, let's be a little bit better controlling the ball and having possession. And let's create our own chances because they're there to be gotten, Manchester United. And whatever comes our way coming forward, I think that we can deal with it. So I think actually it's more about Let's try and control the game from a possession perspective. And then when Man United come at us, we can just be solid and then hit them and kind of give them, like you said, a taste of their own medicine. On paper, 1-on-1 is a good result. But really, because of the limitations of Manchester United in terms of scoring and in terms of creating actual chances on target, it's going to be another difficult night. So at this point, it's anybody's to win. And it's going to be interesting to see how it comes out. But if I'm Real Sociedad, I'm just looking at the tape and saying, we can do better. Let's just hold off and control the game.
Yeah, they both feel they can go through, and it's set up nicely for the second leg. Now, what about Spurs? Because we saw what Arsenal were able to do, their North London rivals, when they went to the Netherlands. They trounced PSV 7-1. PSV is a much better side than AZ. I mean, AZ are playing with a former Spurs youngster, Troy Parrott, through the middle, Shaka. It's a game that can be turned around, a tie that can be turned around. But where was the efficiency? Where was the effervescence? Where were all the chances? Where were the goals from Spurs in this first leg?
I have absolutely no idea. Let me say, so we were talking about all these games on FC last night. I made the point about the Manchester United Sociedad game, that seeing the stats, the possession stats, it didn't feel like Sociedad had the majority of possession. I felt it was all Manchester United for 70 minutes and then all Sociedad for 20. And then in this one, if memory serves me correctly, Spurs had somewhere up around the there you go, 60% mark.
Ask and you shall receive.
As then around again, it did not feel like this. This game felt like it was all AZ Alkmaar. It really did. And then maybe it was to Postecoglou's post-game comments that he felt that they weren't doing anything with the possession. They weren't incisive enough. They weren't forcing AZ into any kind of mistakes or so it was a little bit pedestrian. And maybe that's where I got this wrong, because I do not remember Spurs really troubling AZ at all. And as a matter of fact, AZ should have been 2 up in the first half. You know, Bergwall, you do feel for him, a young player who's simply been outstanding for Spurs since he's been included. That's just a difficult one to take. But AZ could have and should have doubled on that lead. How it remained 1 is beyond me. I will only say, going back for the second leg against Spurs at home, they can turn it around. One, again, as I said previously, I think there's still value to being at home, and maybe you see that in the second leg. Secondly, I'm just not sure Spurs could be as bad. I'm not sure Spurs could be as indecisive. Surely Postecoglou gets this right. Which brings me to another one of my Ange Postecoglou's criticisms. And listen, I love Postecoglou, and I get it. You have a lot of injuries. You're having to include a lot of young players, which you preferred not to. Some of those injuries are starting to come back. But you've been working with this same group, albeit a young group, for quite some time. And I've just not seen any improvement. So we can offer the excuse about having to use young players, but you can't keep saying, or you can't keep showing us this lack of improvement and hope for sympathy.
LME, the 13th in the Premier League. Is the Europa League and their continued progression, is that dependent on whether Ange keeps his job or not?
I think that conventional wisdom will tell you yes. Daniel Levy is the kind of person that sometimes goes against the grain here and tries to maybe even prove people wrong. No, I'll show them he can have 1 more season, but it's been a disastrous season for Tottenham. Europa League remains the only saving grace, but you know, to Shaka's point, they were horrific. Had it not been for Vicario, I think it would have been way more as well. Here's a situation with Tottenham. If you are sticking with Postecoglou, and I've said for a long time that I respect the man, he's a good manager, but like this season proved that sometimes you have to be more versatile, more diplomatic in your thinking, and he wasn't. So to me, I think that if they lose to AZ in the second leg and that's it for them, and they remain around 13th and you're not showing any development, then I think we need to have a serious conversation about who you need to be. But the problem here is that the problem of Tottenham lies within the roots. It's not just about Postecoglou. You need to think about who you want to be, what kind of personnel you want to bring in. You can get rid of Postecoglou, but you might have the same issue like we have seen with Antonio Conte, like we've seen with Mourinho, like we've seen over and over and over again. So, this is going to be a much harder task. But on paper, if they lose in the Europa League to AZ, that's and 13th, 14th, then you've got to have a serious conversation about his future, of course.
So we've had the draw, we've had the defeat, and the win for Chelsea. I know you want a Hearts reference. Hearts played Copenhagen in this competition earlier this season, and we lost 2-0. It was 2 breakaway goals. We had all the possession, and we were really unfortunate to lose, said no Hearts fan in attendance ever. Chelsea went there and did what Chelsea did. Shaka, Chelsea in the Conference League reminds me of something, or here's the analogy. You just drop them into the EFL trophy, and they're head and shoulders above everybody else. You look at the starting lineup last night. It's some youngsters. It's Cole Palmer. It's a couple others as well. Then they brought some big boys on. It's just like big brother against little brother, big sister against little brother, right? You've got them at arm's length, and this ties over, isn't it? And Chelsea are going to win this competition.
Well, whether they win the competition or not, I'm not sure. They're certainly going to get the better of Copenhagen. And again, I think to your point, Mark, they were head and shoulders above Copenhagen on the night. Good value to be 2 up. Quite easily could have been more. I guess, and again, we have former Chelsea defender Frank Leboeuf on the show last night complaining about conceding 1 goal late on, and he just felt it was poor defending and pointed to again a lack of leadership within those ranks. But to your point, there were changes made, certainly from the start. We've seen that from Maresca all season long. Yes, some of the bigger name players were on the park by the time Copenhagen scored, but let's just put that down to one of those moments and assume that Chelsea are going to be better because of it. You can't just give up leadership as you have, and somebody pointing out marking duties. But anyway, or being told it was a little bit of a walk in the park for Chelsea on this one. 2-1 maybe a little bit doesn't really tell you the fullest tale of how dominant Chelsea were. Yes, going back home, they go through.
They were 2-0 up, and then there was a little bit loss put on the scoreline from Copenhagen. So Chelsea...
And Marcos Lopez assist, Mark Donaldson. I'm sorry, Peruvians don't get much celebration anytime, but it was a Marcos Lopez assist. So that's it. I just wanted to give a shout out to the one Peruvian, because we don't have many Peruvians.
Shaka, if you want to do any Trini or Tobago nominations or mentions, just do it now. We can kind of call for a full house.
No, I've got 23 minutes on my bingo card, so I'll aim for that.
Okay, we'll keep you. Still got that date. Remember,
I'll just shout Trinidad and Tobago in 23 minutes, no matter what we're talking about.
Remember, we've got that date in April when you told us that Salah was going to sign a new deal. 27th of April. We're counting down to that. Just before we leave the European competition for this week and focus for the rest of the show on the Premier League in the upcoming games, including Manchester United against Arsenal. The last thing you need when your team's being outplayed and just being thumped at home by Rangers, who can't beat Queen's Park, Motherwell and St Mirren at Ibrox, is a question that lasts about 27.5 minutes. We're going to speed this up. Jose Mourinho nearly fell asleep as a result of this question.
Erhan Seven, TRT Spor. Hocam öncelikle geçmiş olsun. Biraz önce defansif kurgudan bahsettik. Defanstaki üçlü o maçta Mert Skriniar Çağlar'dı. Bu maça da Çağlar Skriniar defans hattındaki o kurgunun bozulmasına ve o gollerin ya da pozisyonların oluşmasına sebebiyet verdiğimi teşekkür ederim.
So coach, you spoke about the mistakes made in the defensive line, but for 60 minutes you put Talisca and Yusuf went out.
Oh, this is too much for my head. I'm tired, man. 90 minutes not to listen to all of this. I'm too tired for that.
I'm feeling your pain, Jose. He's right.
Wow.
Jose's right. Yeah, Jose's right.